A pleasant day to each and everyone who is listening to our class. My discussion today is about the lessons for the fourth quarter in our Practical Research 1 class. Let's begin. Let's talk about Lesson 8, how to collect data through observation and interviews. Collecting data through observation and interviews requires careful planning, execution, and analysis. Here's a step by step guide for each method. About data collection through observation, you have first to define objective. Clearly define what you want to observe and the specific research questions or objectives you aim to address. The second one is that you have to choose observation method. Decide on the type of observation method, which may be a structured observation using a predefined checklist or coding scheme. You may choose unstructured observation, allowing flexibility to observe and record various aspects of the phenomenon. We have also participant observation, immersing yourself in the environment being studied as an active participant. The next one is you have to develop observation protocol. Create an observation protocol outlining the following. First, what to observe. The second one is how to record observation, for example, field notes, audio-video recordings. We have also ethical considerations like obtaining consent and maintaining confidentiality. The next one is to conduct observations. Conduct observations systematically focusing on relevant behaviors, interactions, or phenomena. You may then record the data, take detailed field notes, or use recording devices to capture observations accurately. Note timestamps, context, and any significant details. You may then analyze the data. Analyze observational data by identifying patterns, themes, or trends. You may use qualitative analysis techniques such as thematic analysis or content analysis. Next is, you may interpret the findings then. Interpret the findings about your research objectives, considering the context and implications of observed behaviors or phenomena. How about the data collection through interviews? First, again, you have to define the objectives. Clearly define the research objectives and the specific information you aim to gather through interviews. You may select then the interview method. Choose the appropriate interview method based on your research goals. And you may choose among the following: a structured interview using a predetermined set of questions with little deviation, or semi-structured interviews combining predefined questions with flexibility for follow-up probes and exploration. You may choose unstructured interviews, allowing open-ended conversation guided by broad topics rather than specific questions. The third one is you have to develop interview protocol. Create an interview guide or protocol containing introduction and purpose of the interview, the key questions or topics to be covered, probes or follow-up questions to elicit detailed responses, and the ethical considerations, for example, informed consent and confidentiality. You may then recruit participants. Identify and recruit participants who meet your criteria and can provide relevant insights. You must conduct interviews in a suitable location, ensuring privacy and comfort for participants. Follow the interview protocol, actively listening to participants' responses and probing for further elaboration when necessary. Then record the data. Record interviews with participants' consent using audio or video recording devices. Take additional notes to capture nonverbal cues or contextual details. You may then transcribe recorded interviews verbatim, capturing all spoken words and relevant details. Analyze the data. You may analyze interview data by coding, categorizing, and identifying themes or patterns within the responses, and use qualitative analysis techniques to explore the richness of this data. Then you may interpret the findings. Interpret interview findings about your research objectives, considering the perspectives and experiences shared by participants. The next one is to report results. Present your findings clearly and concisely, providing insights, quotes, and contextual information to support your conclusions. Let's proceed to lesson 9A, inferring and explaining patterns and themes. Inferring and explaining patterns and themes from data, especially in qualitative research, involves a systematic process of analysis and interpretation. Here's a step-by-step guide. First one is that you have to familiarize yourself with the data. You have to review the data, read through the collected data, for example, from interview transcripts and observation notes to gain familiarity with the content. Then you have to take notes. Make notes of initial impressions, interesting points, and potential patterns as you review the data. The second one is you have to code the data. Open coding is one of the options. Begin with open coding where you assign descriptive labels or codes to segments of the data that represent ideas, concepts, or themes. We have also ASIAL coding, group-related codes together into broader categories or themes, organizing the data in a more structured manner. We have also selective coding, further refine and develop key themes or patterns that emerge as central to the data. The third one is you have to identify patterns and themes. So you need to look for repetition, identify recurring ideas, phrases, or concepts across different data sources, which includes interviews and observations or within individual sources. Compare and contrasts. Compare data across different cases or contexts to identify similarities, differences, and variations in themes or patterns. But do not forget to consider the context. Interpret themes and patterns within the context of the research objectives, theoretical frameworks, and the broader social-cultural context. The fourth one, you have to create code books or matrices, or the matrices rather. Codebook. Document the coding scheme used, including definitions of codes and examples of data segments associated with each code. And we have also the coding matrix. Create a matrix or table to organize coded data, facilitating comparison and analysis across themes or categories. Number 5, interpretation and explanation. Develop explanatory framework. Build an explanatory framework or narrative that connects the identified themes and patterns to the research questions, objectives, and theoretical perspectives. Provide context. Explain the context and significance of each theme or pattern considering the perspectives of participants and relevant literature. Consider alternative explanations. Reflect on alternative interpretations or explanations for the observed patterns, acknowledging potential biases and limitations. Triangulation. Use multiple data sources. Enhance the validity and reliability of findings by triangulating data from multiple sources, for example, interviews and observations, and methods. Member checking. Validate interpretations with participants by sharing findings and inviting feedback or clarification on the accuracy and relevance of themes identified. Lesson 9B, the thematic analysis. Thematic analysis is a widely used method for analyzing qualitative data obtained from various sources including interviews, focus group discussions or FGDs, observations, and open-ended questionnaires. Here's how thematic analysis typically unfolds after data collection from these sources. Number 1, transcription and data protection. Let's talk about transcription. If the data collection involves audio or video recordings like from interviews and FGDs, transcripts are created verbatim, capturing all spoken words and relevant details. We have also the data organization. Organize the transcribed data, including any observational notes or questionnaire responses, into a format conducive to analysis. For example, digital files and databases. Number 2, familiarization with the data. The first one is to read and reread. Familiarize yourself with the data by reading and rereading transcripts or observational notes and questionnaire responses to gain an overall understanding of the content. Take initial notes. Make initial notes or annotations on interesting points, recurring ideas, and potential patterns and observed in the data. 3. Coding. Open coding. Begin coding the data by assigning descriptive labels or codes to segments that represent ideas, concepts, or themes. This process involves systematically labeling segments of text based on their content. Generate initial codes. Generate initial codes independently for each data source, for example, interviews of GDs, observations, questionnaires, without trying to fit them into preconceived categories. Number 4, theme development. Identify potential themes. Review the codes and identify potential themes emerging from the data. A theme is a recurring pattern of the meaning or concept that captures an important aspect of the data. Group codes into themes. Group related codes together to form broader themes or categories. This process involves organizing codes into clusters based on their similarities and relationships. Number 5, review and refine themes. Review themes across data. Compare and contrast themes across different data sources, for example, interviews, FGDs, observations, and questionnaires, to ensure consistency and coherence. Refine themes. Refine and revise themes, iteratively ensuring they accurately reflect the content of the data and capture the richness and complexity of participants' experiences and perspectives. Number 6, define and name themes. Define themes. Clearly define each theme by describing its content and scope, including examples or illustrative quotes from the data. Name themes. Assign descriptive names to each theme that succinctly captures its essence and distinguishes it from other themes. How about data interpretation? Contextualize themes. Interpret themes to the research objectives, theoretical frameworks, and the broader sociocultural context in which the data was collected. Generate explanatory framework. Develop an explanatory framework or narrative that explains how the identified themes are interconnected and what they reveal about the research topic. How about write-up and reporting? Document findings. Document the findings of the thematic analysis in a written report or manuscript, organizing themes logically and providing supporting evidence from the data. Illustrate with examples. Illustrate each theme with examples or excerpts from the data, demonstrating how they manifest in participants' responses or observed behaviors. Discuss implications. Discuss the implications of the findings for theory, practice policy, or future research, considering the significance of each theme in the research objectives. Lesson 10, relate the findings with pertinent literature. Relating the findings of a qualitative research study with the review of related literature involves a critical process of synthesis, comparison, and interpretation. Here's how you can effectively integrate your study's findings with the existing literature. Number 1, identify key themes and concepts. You have to review the findings. Start by reviewing the key themes and concepts that emerge from your qualitative analysis. Second, you have to review literature. Revisit the literature review section of your research, focusing on the theories, concepts, and empirical findings relevant to your study. Number 2, Compare findings with existing literature. Identify alignment. Identify areas where your study's findings align with or confirm existing literature. Look for similarities in themes, patterns, or conclusions. Identify novel insights. Identify findings that offer new perspectives, change existing theories, or provide novel insights not previously documented in the literature. Explain relationships and contradictions. You have how to explain the relationships. Explain how your studies findings support, extend, or refine existing theories or concepts discussed in the literature. Highlight how your findings contribute to a deeper understanding of the topic. How to address contradictions. Address any discrepancies or contradictions between your findings and the existing literature. Discuss possible reasons for these discrepancies and consider implications for theory and practice. Then, provide contextual analysis. Contextualize findings contextualize findings. Provide contextual analysis by discussing how sociocultural, historical, or organizational factors may have influenced the observed patterns or themes in your study. Then, draw on literature. Draw on relevant literature to contextualize your findings, discussing how theoretical frameworks or previous research can help interpret and make sense of your findings within a broader context. Number 5. Discuss implications. Theoretical implications. Discuss the theoretical implications of your findings, considering how they contribute to extend or challenge existing theories in the field. And then, explain practical implications. Discuss the practical implications of your findings for real-world applications, policy development, or practice. Consider how your findings can inform decision-making or interventions. You may also suggest areas for future research, like identifying gaps. Identify gaps or areas for future exploration that emerge from your study's findings. Discuss potential research questions or directions for future studies based on your findings. And then link to literature. Link your suggestions for future research to the existing literature, highlighting how they build upon or address gaps inside in previous studies. Number 7, you have to maintain objectivity and balance. Maintaining objectivity in your analysis by critically evaluating both your findings and the existing literature. Acknowledge limitations and biases and strive to present a balanced interpretation. Integrate perspectives. Integrate multiple perspectives from the literature in your findings, acknowledging diverse viewpoints and interpretations. Lesson 11. Drawing conclusions from patterns and themes. Concluding patterns and themes identified in qualitative research involves synthesizing the findings, interpreting their significance, and making overarching statements that address the research questions or objectives. Here's a step-by-step guide on how to conclude patterns and themes. Number 1. Review identified patterns and themes. You have to familiarize yourself in what? Revisit the patterns and themes identified through thematic analysis in your qualitative data. And then you have to organize the themes. Ensure that themes are clearly defined, supported by evidence from the data, and aligned with the research objectives. Interpretation and analysis. Contextualize findings. Consider the broader sociocultural, historical, or theoretical context within such the identified patterns and themes exist. And then, interpret themes. Interpret the meaning and significance of each theme, considering how they contribute to understanding the research topic or addressing the research questions. Number 3, compare and contrast. Compare across data sources. Compare patterns and themes across different sources of qualitative data, for example, interviews and observations, to identify commonalities, differences, and variations. Contrast with existing literature. Compare your findings with existing literature, highlighting areas of alignment, divergence, or novelty. Then, synthesize findings. Integration of themes. Integrate the identified themes into a coherent narrative that provides a comprehensive understanding of the research topic. Then identify relationships. Identify relationships between themes and explore how they interact or influence one another. Number 5, address research objectives. Revisit research questions. Revisit the research questions or objectives to ensure that the conclusions drawn directly address them. Link findings to objectives. Clearly articulate how each identified theme contributes to answering the research questions or achieving the research objectives. Consider alternative explanations. Address alternative interpretations. Acknowledge and address alternative explanations or interpretations for the identified patterns and themes. Second, you have to provide rationale. Provide a rationale for why the chosen interpretations are considered the most plausible or compelling based on the evidence from the data. Next, you have to reflect on implications. So, we have theoretical implications. Discuss the theoretical implications of the findings considering how they contribute to existing theories or generate new theoretical insights. We have also practical implications. Discuss the practical implications of the findings for real-world applications, policy development, or practice. And then, you have to draw conclusions by summarizing the key findings. Summarize the key patterns and themes identified through thematic analysis. And then make overarching statements. Make overarching statements or conclusions that synthesize the main findings and address the research questions or objectives. Number 9, discuss limitations and future directions. Acknowledge limitations. Acknowledge any limitations or constraints of the study such as sampling biases or data collection limitations. And then suggest future directions. Suggest areas for future research or inquiry based on the conclusions drawn from the patterns and themes identified. And then provide closure. Conclude your analysis by providing closure to the discussion, summarizing the main findings, and reiterating the significance of the research contribution. Let's proceed to Lesson 12, Formulating Recommendations. Formulating recommendations based on conclusions drawn from research findings involves translating the implications of your study into actionable suggestions for practice, policy, or further research. Here's a structured approach to formulating recommendations. Number 1, identify key stakeholders. Identify relevant stakeholders. Determine who will be affected by or have a vested interest in the findings of your research, like for example, policymakers, practitioners, researchers, community members. And then review conclusions. Summarize conclusions. Provide a brief overview of the main conclusions drawn from your study, highlighting the key findings and their significance. Number 3, translate conclusions into recommendations. Be specific and actionable. Formulate recommendations that are specific, actionable, and directly address the implications of your conclusions. Prioritize recommendations. Prioritize recommendations based on their potential impact and feasibility of implementation. Number 4, consider context. Account for contextual factors. Consider the specific context in which the recommendations will be implemented, including cultural, social, economic, and political factors. Tailor recommendations. Tailor recommendations to suit the needs and preferences of the target audience or stakeholders. Provide rationale. Justify recommendations. Provide a rationale for each recommendation, explaining how it addresses the identified gaps, challenges, or opportunities revealed by your research findings. Draw on evidence. Draw on empirical evidence from your study and relevant literature to support the validity and the credibility of your recommendations. Number 6, anticipate challenges and barriers. Anticipate potential challenges. Anticipate potential barriers or challenges to the implementation of your recommendations and propose strategies to overcome them. Address ethical considerations. Consider any ethical implications associated with the implementation of your recommendations and propose measures to mitigate risks. Next, outline implementation steps. Provide implementation guidelines. Outline clear steps or actions required to implement each recommendation, including responsibilities, timelines, and resources needed. Facilitate adoption. Offer practical suggestions or tools to facilitate the adoption and operationalization of the recommendations. Monitor and evaluate. Establish monitoring mechanisms. Establish mechanisms for monitoring the implementation and outcomes of the recommendations over time. Evaluate impact. Develop criteria and metrics to evaluate the impact and effectiveness of the recommendations in achieving their intended objectives. Foster collaboration and communication. Facilitate collaboration. Encourage collaboration among stakeholders to foster collective ownership and support for the implementation of the recommendations. Communicate effectively. Develop communication strategies to disseminate the recommendations widely and engage stakeholders in the implementation process. Number 11, revise and adopt. Remain flexible. Recognize that recommendations may need to be revised or adopted based on feedback, changing circumstances, or new evidence. Iterative process. View the formulation of recommendations as an iterative process, continually refining and improving them based on ongoing learning and evaluation. Lesson 13. Listing references. In American Psychological Association 7th edition style, references are listed as the end of your paper in a section titled References. Each entry should be formatted according to specific guidelines. Here's how to list references using APA 7. For the book, we have the author and the initial of the first name and the initial of the middle name, and then inside the parentheses, we have the year of publication. And the title of work is next. And as you can notice, only the first letter of the sentence must be in capital letter, and the rest must be written in small letters unless it is a proper noun. We have then the capital letter also for subtitle. If it has a subtitle, you have to begin or to write it with a capital letter, the first letter of the sentence, and then the publisher. For the journal article, we have same as with the book, the author's last name, the initials of the first name and the middle name, and then if there are several authors, you need to use ampersand instead of the word and then the year of the publication, the title of the article, the title of the periodical, the volume number, which is it has no space after the volume number going to the issue number, which is in the parentheses, and then the page range, and then the URL. We have also the website, the last name of the author, the initials of the first name and the middle name, and then inside the parentheses, we have the year, the month, day of the publication, the title of the web page, and then the website name alongside with the URL. We have also the edited book. We have the editor, and then the initials, and then the ED inside the parentheses, and then the year of publication, the title of the work, capital letter also, or for subtitle or publisher. We have also the chapter in an edited book, the author, the initials of the first name and the last name, the year of publication, the title of the chapter, and for some book published, we have the editors, and all the editors must be also listed, and the title of the book, the page numbers, and then the publisher. Take note of the following. When citing multiple authors, use an ampersand instead of and within parentheses, but use and when citing authors in the running texts. If a DOI is available, it is preferred over a URL. Alphabetize the references by the first author's last name. If the source has no author, use the title in place of the author. Italicize the titles of the books, the journals, and the web pages. Lesson 14. Presenting a written research report. Presenting a written research report involves effectively communicating your research findings, methodology, and analysis in a clear and organized manner. Here's a step-by-step guide on how to present a written research report. First, the title page. Include the title of your research report, your name, institutional affiliation, and any other relevant information such as the date. With the abstract, write a concise summary of your research, including the purpose, methodology, key findings, and implications. Keep it between 150 to 250 words. Table of contents. Provide a list of headings and subheadings along with their respective page numbers to help readers navigate the report. For the introduction, introduce the topic and provide background information to contextualize the study. That's why we are using the TEOC pattern, trends, issues, objectives, and conclusions. State the research question or questions, objectives, and the significance of the study. Provide an overview of the research methodology. Literature review. Review relevant literature to provide theoretical and empirical context for your study. Summarize key findings from previous research and identify gaps or limitations in the literature. For the methodology, describe the research design, including the approach, if it is a qualitative, quantitative, or mixed methods. Participants also must be explained sampling technique, data collection procedures, and data analysis methods. And then, justify the chosen methodology and discuss any ethical considerations. For the results, present the findings of your study clearly and systematically. Use tables, charts, and graphs to summarize quantitative data. Provide quotes or excerpts from qualitative data to illustrate key themes or patterns. For the discussion, interpret the findings about the research questions and objectives. Discuss the implications of the findings and their significance in the context of existing literature. Address any limitations of the study and suggest areas for future research. And for the conclusion, summarize the main findings and restate the importance of the study. Highlight the contributions of your research and its potential impact on the field. Offer recommendations for practice, policy, or further research based on your findings. For the references, list all sources cited in the report using the appropriate citation style. For example, APA or MLA. For our case, we use the American Psychological Association, the 7th edition. Ensure that references are formatted correctly and alphabetized. For the presentation naman, if presenting your research orally, prepare a slide deck or visual aids to accompany your presentation. Practice delivering your presentation to ensure clarity, coherence, and adherence to time limits. Engage with your audience by inviting questions and fostering discussion. Appendices. Include any supplementary materials such as interview, transcripts, survey instruments, or additional data analysis. For the formatting and style, use clear and concise language. Avoiding jargon or technical terms that may be unfamiliar to readers. Format the report according to the guidelines provided by your institution or the preferred style guide. Use headings and subheadings to organize the content and improve readability. Proofread the report carefully to check for spelling, grammar, and formatting errors. And that ends our discussion. Thank you so much.